The great hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with worried voices as Ambassador Zektar walked to his seat. His purple skin looked darker than usual under the bright lights. The tall alien from the Velthari Empire had called this meeting because something was very wrong. For the first time in 3 years, the human seats were empty. Jake Morrison should have been sitting in the front row. He had been Earth's voice in the council for 10 long years. His brown hair was getting gray now, but his eyes were still sharp. Next to him, Dr. Lisa Carter should have been checking her data pad. She was the smartest human the council had ever seen. Her work had helped 40 different alien races solve their problems. But today, both seats sat empty. No message had come from Earth. No one had said the humans were leaving. They had just stopped coming to meetings. Zektar hit his staff on the metal floor 3 times. The sound rang through the hall like a bell. All the alien voices went quiet. Representatives from 47 different worlds looked at him with their many different kinds of eyes. "The human delegation has been absent for 15 standard days," Zektar said. His voice was deep and rough. "We have received no word from Earth or any human colony. This meeting will decide what action the Council should take." A thin, silver alien stood up. Her name was Silvera, and she spoke for the Zephyrians. Her people were very smart, but also very afraid of things they did not understand. "Perhaps the humans have finally shown their true nature," she said in her soft voice. "They were always too wild, too quick to fight." Many aliens nodded their heads. The humans had always been different. They felt things too strongly. They changed, their minds too fast. They asked too many questions about rules that had worked for thousands of years. "The humans saved my planet from the Red Death," said a small, furry alien named Pipka. His people were called the Morphlings. Dr. Lisa Carter worked for 6 months without sleep to find the cure. "We should not speak badly of them." But other voices spoke up. The humans had built too many ships. They had settled on too many worlds. They had made friends with aliens that other races did not trust. Some said the humans were planning something big and dangerous. Council leader Morden was very old, even for his long-lived people. His blue skin was covered with the scars that showed his age and wisdom. He had seen many races join the council. He had also seen some leave, but never like this. "In all my years," Morden said, "no race has left the council without saying goodbye. The humans may be young and sometimes foolish, but they have honor. Something has happened." Zektar's yellow eyes flashed with anger. "What has happened is that we finally voted to limit their expansion. We told them they could not take any more star systems. We said they could not join the Defense Committee or the Trade Board. They have left because they cannot accept our rules." The Velthari had been the loudest voices against the humans. They said Earth's people were too aggressive. They grew too fast. They asked for too much. The Velthari were used to being the strongest military power in the galaxy. The humans made them nervous. Dr. Ventar, the chief science officer, looked at his reports. He was from a race called the Keth Mori. They lived for a very long time and thought very slowly about everything. "The human colonies were producing 30% of our medical supplies," he said. "Their ships carried 40% of all trade between star systems. Their scientists were working on solutions to problems we have had for centuries." "Then we will find other ways," Zektar said. But his voice did not sound as sure as his words. A red light started flashing on the big screen at the front of the hall. This meant a message was coming from far away. Everyone became very quiet. Maybe this was news from the humans, but the message was from Captain Rexton of the Outer Rim Patrol. His ship looked damaged. There were blast marks on its silver hull. "The Scarvan Raiders hit 3 more colonies this week," he reported. "We need help. The human peacekeepers always came when we called. Now there is no one. The Council had depended on human ships to keep the peace in many parts of the galaxy." The humans were good at stopping fights before they became wars. They were brave and fair. Other races trusted them even when they did not trust each other. Morden looked around the Great Hall. He could see worry on every face, no matter what kind of face it was. "Send probe ships to human space," he ordered. "We must know what has happened to our friends." But in his heart, the old council leader was afraid. The humans had not left because of the new rules. They had left because the council had made them feel unwelcome. And now, looking at the empty seats where Jake Morrison and Lisa Carter should have been sitting, Morden wondered if the council had made the biggest mistake in its long history. The meeting ended with more questions than answers. As the aliens walked out of the Great Hall, many of them looked back at the two empty human seats. The silence where human voices should have been was louder than all their worried talking. 3 months had passed since the humans stopped coming to council meetings. The galaxy was starting to feel their absence in ways nobody had expected. Trade ships moved slower without human logistics networks. Scientific projects stopped halfway through without human creativity. Most worrying of all, small wars were starting in places where human peacekeepers used to keep the peace. Ambassador Zektar sat in his office looking at reports that made his stomach hurt. The Velthari Empire was having problems that seemed impossible just a few months ago. Their weapons factories needed special metals that only human miners knew how to find safely. Their warships needed power cores that human engineers had designed. Without these things, the mighty Velthari fleet was becoming weaker each day. A message came to his desk from Admiral Kexavin, the strongest military leader in the Velthari forces. "Our newest battleships cannot leave port," the admiral reported. "The human-designed engines need a type of fuel crystal that we do not know how to make. Our scientists are trying to learn, but it may take years." This news made Zektar very angry, but also very worried. The Velthari had been the ones pushing hardest to limit human power in the council. Now they were learning just how much they had depended on human knowledge and skill. The problems were worse in other parts of the galaxy. On the planet Zephyr Prime, the beautiful crystal cities were starting to crack. The atmospheric processors that kept the air clean and safe had been designed by human engineers. Without regular maintenance from people who understood the complex systems, the delicate balance was failing. Silvera, the Zephyrian representative, sent desperate messages to the council every day. "Our children are getting sick," she reported. "The air purifiers are working at only 60% efficiency. We need Dr. Lisa Carter or someone who learned from her. Please, can the council contact the humans and ask for help?" But no one could contact the humans because no one knew where they had gone. The small morphling colonies were facing an even worse crisis. A new disease was spreading through their settlements on the outer rim. It was similar to the Red Death that had almost killed their entire race years ago. Dr. Lisa Carter had saved them then, with a cure that combined human medicine with alien biology. Now, with the disease coming back in a new form, they had no one to turn to. Pipka, the morphling representative, came to the council with tears in his big, round eyes. 20,000 of my people are sick," he said. "The old cure does not work on this new version of the disease. We have all of Dr. Carter's notes, but we cannot understand her thinking. She wrote about intuitive leaps and connecting patterns that others miss. Our doctors are very smart, but they think differently than humans do." Council leader Morden tried to keep order as more and more problems were reported each day. The Hixmoth and Kelnari had started fighting over mining rights in the Kepler system. Usually, Lieutenant Sam Rodriguez would have flown there in his fast ship to talk to both sides. Sam was good at finding solutions that made everyone happy. He was brave enough to fly into dangerous situations, but smart enough to solve problems with words instead of weapons. Without Sam or other human peacekeepers, the small fight had grown into something bigger. Both alien races were sending warships to the disputed system. Other races were taking sides. What should have been a simple disagreement was turning into the first major war the galaxy had seen in decades. "We need the humans back," said Dr. Ventar during an emergency council meeting. The old Kethmori scientist looked tired and worried. "I have been studying the problems across the galaxy. In every case, we are missing something that humans provided. Not just their technology or their ships, but their way of thinking." Zektar did not want to admit that the humans were important, but the evidence was getting hard to ignore. "What do you mean, their way of thinking?" he asked. "Humans see connections that we miss," Dr. Ventar explained. "They solve problems by trying new things instead of following old rules. They work fast when speed is needed, but they also think about consequences we do not consider. Most importantly, they bring different species together instead of keeping them apart." The truth was becoming clear to many council members. Humans had not just been another member race. They had been the glue that held many parts of galactic civilization together. Their ships carried goods between worlds that did not trust each other. Their scientists worked on projects that benefited everyone. Their peacekeepers stopped fights before they became wars. The first investigation ships had returned from human space with disturbing news. Captain Yeldar of the Kethmori Deep Space Survey reported to the council with confusion in his ancient voice. "We found human colonies, space stations, and planets," he said, "but no humans. Everything is clean and well-maintained. The lights are on, the computers are working, but there is no one there." The captain showed pictures on the big screen. Beautiful human cities sat empty under alien suns. Space stations orbited planets with their docking bays open and waiting. But no ships came. Gardens grew wild in parks where human children should have been playing. "It is like they all just walked away," Captain Yeldar continued. "But there are no signs of violence or panic, no emergency messages, no distress signals. They left, but they left everything behind except themselves." This news made the council chamber very quiet. It was one thing to think the humans had gone to build new colonies somewhere else. It was another thing entirely to learn they had abandoned everything they had built in council space. Morden looked around at the worried faces of representatives from 47 different worlds. "Send more ships," he ordered. "We must find out where the humans have gone and why they left everything behind." But deep in his heart, the old council leader was starting to understand the truth. The humans had not just left. They had been driven away by fear and prejudice and stupid rules. And now the galaxy was learning just how much they had lost. Admiral Kexvin commanded the largest investigation fleet the Council had ever assembled. 20 ships from 8 different races followed him toward the Sol system, where Earth waited in the darkness of space. The Velthari Admiral had volunteered to lead this mission, though many suspected he wanted to find the humans for his own reasons. His empire needed their technology badly. The journey took 12 days through hyperspace. When the fleet dropped back into normal space near Earth's yellow sun, what they found made even the experienced admiral stop and stare. Earth hung in space like a blue and green jewel, just as beautiful as it had always been. City lights twinkled on the night side of the planet. Satellites moved in their proper orbits. Everything looked normal from far away. But the space around Earth was empty. No human ships moved between the planets. No traffic control signals came from the massive space stations. The orbital shipyards that had built some of the finest vessels in the galaxy sat silent and dark. "Scan the planet," Admiral Kexavan ordered his crew. The results that came back were impossible to believe. "Sir," reported his science officer, "we are detecting power signatures from all major cities. Life support systems are running normally. But we are reading 0 human life signs across the entire planet." The Admiral's purple skin turned darker with worry. "That cannot be correct. Scan again." But the second scan showed the same results. Earth was alive and functioning, but empty of the people who had built it. Captain Ben Murphy's flagship, the UNS Horizon, was found orbiting Mars in perfect condition. The great ship that had carried human diplomats and scientists to dozens of alien worlds sat waiting for a crew that would never return. When boarding parties from the investigation fleet went inside, they found something that gave them chills. Personal belongings were still in the crew quarters. Family pictures sat on desks next to half-finished letters home. In the mess hall, meals sat on tables as if people had just stepped away for a moment. But there was no one anywhere on the ship. Engineer Kate Adams had left her workshop in perfect order. Her tools were clean and properly stored. Her technical manuals were stacked neatly on her desk. But when the alien engineers tried to understand her most advanced projects, they found that key components had been carefully removed. The humans had taken their newest technology with them. On Luna Base, the investigation team found the same strange situation. The base was running perfectly, but empty of people. In the command center, they discovered the final transmission logs. Colonel Ryan Phillips had recorded a simple message just before the humans disappeared. To whoever finds this recording, Ryan's voice said from the speakers, the Council has made its position clear regarding humanity's place in galactic civilization. We have been told we are too aggressive, too unpredictable, too dangerous to be trusted with real responsibility. We have been voted off important committees and restricted from expanding to new worlds. The message is clear. We are not welcome as equals. The colonel's voice was calm, but there was sadness in it too. Humanity chooses to seek its own path among the stars. We bear no ill will toward the Council or its member races. We have learned much from our time together, and we hope we have given something useful in return. But we will not remain where we are treated as children or as threats. Admiral Kexavin listened to the recording 3 times. Each time he felt worse about his own role in pushing the humans away from the Council. The investigation teams spread across the Sol system, visiting every human colony and space station. They found the same pattern everywhere. Perfect maintenance, functioning systems, but no people. On Mars, the great terraforming project that had taken humans 50 years to complete was still running. Atmospheric processors worked steadily to make the red planet more like Earth, but the cities built into the canyon walls were empty. The asteroid mining stations still pulled valuable metals from the space rocks, but automated systems had taken over from human workers. The orbital farms that fed much of the outer rim continued to grow food, but robots tended the crops instead of human farmers. Dr. Ventar, who had joined the investigation, studied the evidence with his careful scientific mind. This was not a sudden evacuation, he reported to Admiral Kexavin. The humans planned this departure very carefully. They removed only what they needed and left everything else working for our benefit. The most puzzling discovery came from Earth's deep space, communication array. The massive system that had connected human space to the rest of the galaxy was still functioning, but it had been reprogrammed. Instead of sending and receiving messages, it was now broadcasting a simple repeating signal toward empty space beyond, the galactic rim. What are they saying? Admiral Kexavin asked the communication experts. It is not words, replied the Zephyrian technician studying the signal. It appears to be some kind of location beacon or navigation aid. They are broadcasting coordinates to somewhere very far away. The coordinates pointed to a region of space that Council surveys had always marked as empty. No stars, no planets, nothing but the dark void between galaxies. Why would the humans go there? What could they hope to find in such a desolate place? As the investigation fleet prepared to return to Council space, Admiral Kexavin stood on the bridge of his ship, looking back at Earth. The beautiful planet that had given birth to one of the most remarkable races the galaxy had ever known was now just an empty museum. Sir, his communications officer reported, we are receiving a transmission from the Zephyrian homeworld. The atmospheric crisis is getting worse. They are requesting immediate assistance. Similar messages came from across the galaxy. The morphling disease was spreading to new colonies. The Hixmoth and Kelnari War was drawing in other races. Trade networks were collapsing without human logistics support. Admiral Kexavin realized, with growing horror, that the humans had not just left Council space. They had taken with them the knowledge, skills, and connections that held galactic civilization together. The Council had driven away the one race that could solve problems others could not handle. As his fleet jumped back into hyperspace, carrying news of humanity's complete disappearance, the Admiral wondered if the Council would ever see the humans again. And if they did, would the humans still be willing to help the galaxy that had rejected them? 6 months after the humans vanished, the galaxy was falling apart. Council leader Morden sat in his private office reading reports that made his old heart heavy with regret. Every day brought news of new disasters, failed systems, and conflicts that were growing larger and more dangerous. The Zephyrian crystal cities were dying. Their beautiful towers, which had reached toward the clouds for thousands of years, were cracking and falling. The atmospheric processors that Dr. Laura Smith had designed were breaking down without proper maintenance. The delicate balance of gases that kept the air clean and breathable was failing. Silvera sent daily messages begging for help. "Our children cannot breathe properly," she reported with panic in her soft voice. "The air is becoming poisonous. We have tried to fix the processors ourselves, but we do not understand Dr. Smith's design. She combined our crystal technology with human engineering in ways that our best scientists cannot figure out. The Zephyrians were not alone in their suffering. The proud Velthari Empire was learning that their mighty military was not so mighty without human support. Admiral Kexavin had to report to Ambassador Zektar that half their fleet could not leave port. The power cores are failing one by one, the Admiral explained. Commander Alex Wright designed them to be more efficient than anything we had before. But when they break, we cannot fix them. The humans never shared the complete technical details. They always sent their own engineers to do the repairs. Zektar's yellow eyes burned with anger, but it was anger at himself as much as at the situation. His people had been so worried about human expansion that they had never learned to maintain human technology. Now they were paying the price for their pride. The medical crisis was even worse. The plague that had started in the Morphling colonies was spreading to other races. It was a new form of the Red Death that Dr. Lisa Carter had defeated years ago. But this version was different, smarter, more dangerous. Dr. Ventar worked day and night trying to understand Carter's cure, but human. Medicine was too different from anything other races used. She wrote about trusting instincts and making creative leaps, the old Kethmori scientist told the Council. Our people think carefully and logically. We follow proven methods, but Dr. Carter's notes talk about trying things that should not work, but somehow do. The disease had reached 12 different star systems. Millions were sick and thousands were dying. The alien doctors had all of Carter's research, but they could not think like a human. They could not make the intuitive connections that had made her such a brilliant healer. Trade was collapsing across the galaxy. Human logistics networks had connected worlds that did not trust each other. Human ships had carried goods through dangerous regions where other races feared to go. Human negotiators had worked out deals between species that had been enemies for centuries. Without these connections, trade routes were closing. Planets that depended on imports of food and medicine were running out of supplies. Some worlds were talking about leaving the Council to make their own deals with neighbors, even if those neighbors had been enemies in the past. The worst problem was the growing war between the Hixmoth and Kelnari. What had started as a simple dispute over mining rights had grown into a major conflict. Both races were proud and stubborn. Both felt they had been wronged. Neither would back down. Lieutenant Sam Rodriguez would have solved this problem in a few days. He had a gift for finding solutions that made everyone feel like they had won something important. But Sam was gone with all the other humans, and no other race had peacekeepers with his skills. The war was spreading as other races chose sides. The Kolvari supported the Hixmoth because of old trade agreements. The Nexuri backed the Kelnari because of ancient family connections. Soon, what had started as a two-race conflict was pulling in half the galaxy. Council meetings had become shouting matches. Representatives blamed each other for the crisis. Some said the Velthari had driven the humans away with their aggressive policies. Others blamed the Zephyrians for their fears about human expansion. A few even suggested that the humans had planned this disaster to punish the Council. "Look at the facts," Dr. Ventar said during one particularly angry session. "The humans left everything working. They could have sabotaged our trade networks or destroyed their technology. Instead, they carefully maintained all systems until they could leave peacefully. They did not want to hurt us, but we hurt ourselves by driving them away." But not everyone wanted to admit the truth. Ambassador Zektar stood up with his purple, skin dark with rage. "The humans were always planning to leave," he declared. "They were too proud to accept council authority. They wanted to rule the galaxy themselves. We are better off without them." As if to prove him wrong, a new report arrived at that moment. The Scarvan raiders from beyond Council space had attacked 3 more colonies. These savage aliens had been kept in check for years by human patrol fleets. Commander Alex Wright's defensive technologies had protected the Rim worlds from their brutal raids, but the defense systems were failing without proper maintenance. The human patrol ships were gone. The Scarvan were growing bolder, attacking deeper into Council space. Soon they would threaten core worlds that had not seen war for generations. Captain Rexton of the Outer Rim Patrol sent a desperate message to the Council. His own ship was damaged from fighting the raiders. "We need help," he reported. "The Scarvan have new weapons and ships. They are not just raiding anymore, they are conquering. Without human support, we cannot stop them." Morden looked around. The council chamber at the frightened faces of representatives from 47 different worlds. Some were angry, some were scared, but all of them were starting to understand the same terrible truth. The humans had not been just another member race of the council. They had been the heart that kept galactic civilization alive and healthy. Their technology had powered the galaxy's greatest achievements. Their peacekeepers had prevented wars. Their doctors had saved billions of lives. Their traders had connected worlds across the stars. Now they were gone, and the galaxy was learning what it meant to live without them. Every day brought new proof that the Council had made the worst mistake in its long history. They had driven away the one race that could not be replaced. As the meeting ended with more problems and no solutions, Morden wondered if it was already too late. Even if they could find the humans, would Earth's children ever forgive the galaxy that had rejected them? Or would the Council have to watch their civilization crumble because of their own fear and pride? A full year had passed since the humans disappeared, and the galaxy had settled into a grim routine of slow decline. Then the deep space monitoring stations detected something that changed everything. Energy readings were coming from the galactic rim, far beyond any known star systems. The signals were massive, coordinated, and completely impossible. Dr. Ventar was the first to study the readings carefully. The old Keth Mori scientist had spent months analyzing every piece of data the humans had left behind. He knew their technology better than any other non-human in the galaxy. When he saw the energy signatures from the rim, his ancient heart began beating faster. "These readings show construction on a scale we have never imagined," he reported to the emergency council session. "Massive space habitats, terraforming projects, and energy generation that exceeds anything in our databases. The technology signatures are clearly human, but advanced far beyond what they had when they lived among us." Council Leader Morden felt a chill run through his blue skin. How is that possible? They have only been gone for 1 year. How could they build such things so quickly? But Dr. Ventar had no answers, only more questions. The scout ships sent to investigate returned with footage that left the entire council speechless. Captain Yeldar, The same Kethamori officer who had found the empty human colonies transmitted his discoveries with wonder in his voice. "What we have found defies all understanding," Captain Yeldar reported. "The humans have not simply survived their exile. They have built a civilization that surpasses anything the Council has achieved in thousands of years." The images he sent back showed space habitats larger than moons, floating in perfect formation around artificially created stars. Terraforming projects had turned barren rocks into garden worlds in just months. Ships of elegant design moved between human settlements with technology that seemed decades ahead of Council standards. Most shocking of all, the humans were not alone. The long-range sensors detected other species, alien races that no Council member had ever seen before. Ancient civilizations that had remained hidden beyond the galactic rim were now working alongside humanity as equals and friends. Admiral Nancy Brooks commanded the human fleet that Captain Yeldar encountered at the edge of human space. Her ships were sleek and powerful, incorporating technologies that made Council vessels look primitive. When she spoke to the scout ship, her voice carried the confidence of someone who had found her place in the universe. "Captain Yeldar," she said, "you are welcome in human space as an observer, but not as an investigator. We are no longer subject to Council authority or Council judgment. We have found friends among the stars who value what we bring to the galaxy." The captain asked permission to visit one of the human settlements. What he saw there amazed him even more than the ships and space stations. The humans had not just built new cities, they had created a new way of life. Their settlements were integrated with alien communities in ways the Council had never imagined possible. Children from a dozen different species played together in parks designed for their various needs. Scientists from races the Council had never contacted worked side by side with human researchers. Trade flowed freely between civilizations that had watched the Council from afar and found it lacking in wisdom and unity. "How did you find these other races?" Captain Yeldar asked Admiral Brooks during his brief visit to the human capital station. "They found us," she replied with a smile. "When we left Council space, we sent exploration ships in all directions. We discovered that the galaxy is much larger and more populated than the Council ever knew. There are civilizations out here that have existed for millions of years. They have been watching the Council and waiting to see if any member race would prove worthy of true partnership." The Admiral showed him records of first contact with the Velnari, an ancient race of energy beings who had mastered technologies the Council could barely understand. The Korthmech, massive creatures who lived in the emptiness between stars, had taught humans how to build habitats that could survive anywhere in space. The mysterious Silthara had shared secrets of terraforming that could turn dead worlds into paradises in months instead of centuries. These races had given up on the Council long ago, Admiral Brooks explained. They saw it as a collection of species too afraid and too proud to work together properly. But when they met humans, they saw something different. They saw a race willing to learn, to change, to grow beyond the limitations others placed on them. Captain Yeldar transmitted this information back to the Council, along with his own observations. The humans had not just survived being cast out from galactic civilization. They had found something better. They had discovered allies and technologies that made Council membership seem like a prison instead of an honor. The news hit the Council chambers like a thunderbolt. Representatives who had spent months blaming each other for the galaxy's problems suddenly faced a new reality. The humans were not suffering in exile. They were thriving beyond the Council's wildest dreams. Ambassador Zektar, whose people desperately needed human technology to save their failing empire, felt his world crumble around him. "This is impossible," he declared. "No race can advance so quickly. They must have been planning this for years. They must have been working with these alien races in secret while they were still Council members." But Dr. Ventar shook his head sadly. "The evidence shows otherwise. The humans achieved in 1 year what took us centuries because they were free to think and act without council restrictions. They were not limited by our fears, our prejudices, or our rules about who could work with whom. The old scientist displayed the energy readings and construction data for all to see. Look at what they have built. Space habitats that house billions in comfort and safety. Terraforming projects that create new worlds for any species that needs them. Defense systems that could protect entire star systems from invasion. Medical centers that combine the knowledge of dozens of races to cure diseases we thought were impossible to treat. The council chamber fell silent as the representatives absorbed this information. Every problem the galaxy faced, the humans had found ways to solve. Every limitation the council had accepted as permanent, the humans had overcome with the help of their new allies. Silvera of the Zephyrians was the first to speak. Her voice was small and filled with regret. Could they help us fix our atmospheric processors? Could they cure the plague that is killing the morphlings? Could they stop the war that is tearing the galaxy apart? I do not know, Dr. Ventar replied honestly. But I do know that we no longer have the right to ask. We made it clear that we did not want them as equals in the council. Why should they help us now as our superiors? The truth was painful, but it could no longer be denied. The council had not just lost a member race. They had driven away the species that could have led them to a golden age of cooperation and advancement. Instead, the humans had found that golden age without them, beyond the reach of council authority and council prejudice. As the meeting ended, Morden looked around at the worried faces of representatives from 47 different worlds. They had thought they were protecting the galaxy from human ambition. Instead, they had protected the humans from galactic limitations. Now humanity was free to become everything they could be, while the council struggled with problems they could not solve alone. 18 months after the humans vanished from council space, a single ship appeared at the edge of the Sol system. It was unlike any vessel in the council databases, sleek and powerful, with technologies that made the greatest alien warships look like ancient relics. The ship broadcast a simple message on all council frequencies. This is Admiral Carol Hansen of the Free Human Collective, requesting permission to address the Galactic Council. The name sent shockwaves through the council chambers. Carol Hansen had been a junior officer when the humans left, barely known outside military circles. Now she commanded vessels that could destroy entire fleets and spoke for a civilization that had grown beyond council understanding. Council leader Morden granted permission immediately. He was old and tired, worn down by months of crisis and failure. The beautiful galaxy he had helped govern for so long was falling apart, and he knew that only the humans could save it. If they wanted to save it. Admiral Hansen's ship docked at the council station with elegant precision. When she walked into the great chamber where representatives from 47 worlds waited nervously, she looked nothing like the humans who had once sat in the empty seats at the front. Her uniform was made of materials no council member had ever seen, and her bearing showed the confidence of someone who had found her place among the stars. "Members of the Galactic Council," she said, her voice carrying clearly through the vast hall, "I bring greetings from the Free Human Collective and our allies beyond the Rim. We have come to offer assistance to worlds in crisis, not as subjects of council authority, but as equals willing to help neighbors in need." Ambassador Zektar, whose Velthari empire was barely holding together without human technology, stood up with desperation in his voice. "We need your help," he admitted, the words bitter in his mouth. "Our ships cannot fly, our weapons cannot function, our people are dying. Please tell us what you want in return." Admiral Hansen looked at him with something that might have been pity. "We want nothing that you have not already given us," she replied. "Your rejection freed us to become more than we ever could have been under council rule. Your limitations taught us that growth requires leaving comfortable places behind." The Admiral activated a holographic display that showed the current state of the galaxy. Red areas marked regions in crisis, the failing Zephyrian cities, the spreading plague, the expanding war zones, the collapsed trade routes. It was a map of disaster that made every council member feel ashamed. "We know about your problems because we still care about the beings we once called friends," Hansen continued. "Dr. Laura Smith has developed new atmospheric processors that will heal the Zephyrian cities. Captain Steve Wilson brings medical supplies and cures for the plague that threatens dozens of worlds. Commander Helen Davis has defensive technologies that will end the Scarvan raids permanently." Hope flickered in alien hearts across the chamber. Silvera of the Zephyrians began to weep tears of relief. The morphling representative, Pipka, made the chittering sounds his people used to express joy. Even Admiral Kexavin felt his warrior's pride ease as he realized his ships might fly again. But Admiral Hansen was not finished. "However," she said, and the word fell like a hammer on the Council's hopes, "we will not work under the same conditions that drove us away. There will be no committees that exclude human voices, no restrictions on human expansion or human alliances, no assumptions that we are too dangerous or too unpredictable to be trusted with important decisions." Council leader Morden struggled to his feet, his ancient joints protesting. "What are your terms?" he asked, though he already knew the answer. Would humble the Council completely. "Equality," Hansen replied simply. "Complete equality. Humans will help solve the galaxy's problems as partners, not as servants. We will share our new technologies as friends, not as subjects required to give up our secrets. And we will expand our civilization wherever we choose, just as every other council race has always done." The Admiral gestured, and the holographic display changed to show the human settlements beyond the rim. Beautiful worlds and space habitats stretched across star systems the Council had never explored. Alien races worked alongside humans in perfect cooperation, building wonders that surpassed anything in Council space. "We have learned that the galaxy is much larger than the Council ever imagined," Hansen explained. "Our new allies have shown us technologies and possibilities that your limited thinking never considered. We are no longer the race that needed Council approval to grow and explore. We are teachers now, as much as students. The transformation was impossible to deny. In 18 months, humanity had evolved from a troublesome council member into the leaders of an advanced civilization. They had found friends among ancient races that had rejected the council long ago. They had built wonders that made council achievements look primitive." Ambassador Zektar swallowed his pride and spoke for his dying empire. "We accept your terms," he said quietly. "We accept equality. We accept human expansion. We accept that we were wrong to limit your growth. Please, just help us save our people." One by one, other representatives stood to agree. The Zephyrians needed their cities saved. The Morphlings needed the plague cured. The Outer Rim colonies needed protection from raiders. Dozens of worlds needed human logistics and technology to survive. But Admiral Hansen shook her head sadly. "The decision is not yours alone to make," she said. "Every council member must agree to the new partnership, or we will deal only with individual worlds that want our help." This created a crisis within the crisis. Some races were too proud to admit they had been wrong about humanity. Others feared that human equality would threaten their own power in the council. For 3 days, the representatives argued and debated while their world suffered. Finally, Dr. Ventar stood up in the council chamber. The old Kethmori scientist spoke with the weight of his centuries of wisdom. "We have a choice," he said. "We can let our pride kill our people, or we can admit that we made a terrible mistake and try to fix it." The vote was close, but it passed. 47 worlds agreed to treat humanity as equals in all council decisions. They agreed to remove all restrictions on human expansion. Most importantly, they agreed to learn from human examples of cooperation and growth. Admiral Hansen smiled, for the first time since entering the chamber. "Then we will begin immediately," she said. "Dr. Smith's ships are already heading to Zephyr Prime. Captain Wilson's medical fleet is en route to the plague zones. Commander Davis's defense systems will be installed around the rim worlds within days." As the Admiral's ship departed, carrying news of the new partnership back to human space, Council Leader Morden remained in the empty chamber. He looked at the seats where Jake Morrison and Dr. Lisa Carter had once sat, representing a young race that dreamed of joining the galactic community. Now those same humans returned as teachers and leaders, offering salvation to the galaxy that had rejected them. They came not in anger or vengeance, but with the gifts of advanced science and hard-won wisdom. They had learned to thrive beyond the Council's limitations, and now they would show the galaxy how to grow beyond its own fears. The humans had departed without a word, and in their silence they had found voices that could sing new songs among the stars. The Council had tried to limit their growth and had instead freed them to become everything they were meant to be. Now the galaxy could only hope that human forgiveness was as boundless as human ambition, and that the children of Earth would help their former neighbors find the same freedom among the infinite stars.